Hello and welcome, you guys. Just wanted to say a quick welcome to everyone who is hopping on to watch this tutorial today. We are just so excited about that. And today we are talking about exposure and white balance. Exposure and white balance. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now this is super important when it comes to video production. And when you think about it, these are really just fundamental skills that have the potential and can take your video to the next level, because it'll just look so much better when you have all the lighting is right and you understand why it needs to be there, and it'll just make everything better. So we're going to go over the 3 basic settings to start off, and the first one we want to talk about today is ISO. So ISO is almost one of the most important settings, and what it's really about is it's really about the lighting in the video, how bright it looks, how lit it is. Is it overexposed? Is it underexposed? Can you see everything? That's the basics of ISO. And it is really important in itself, because if you do it wrong, your video can be unusable. And one easy rule to help you guys remember ISO is to think about the fact that darker settings or darker rooms require a higher ISO. And along with that, rooms that are brighter require less ISO. So you'll have a lower ISO in rooms that are really bright. And just to make a visual, we wanted to show some pictures of different settings that you might need different ISO settings for this. So the first one, we have a bright sun, very well lit area, and we're gonna go back to them so you guys can have time to think about what you think the ISO should be. Number 2 is partly cloudy. We're gonna skip down to number 4, and this is my attempt at making like a movie theater or a very dark room. Number 3 is very cloudy and pretty dim. So when we hop back to number 1, where it is in fact very bright, very sunny, it's direct sun, you are going to want the ISO as low as possible. Some go down to 50, some go down to 100. That's what you're going to want. Moving on to 2, it's partly cloudy. You can bump it up to around 400, 500, depending on the situation it really is in. And when it's cloudy and kind of dim, that's when you're going to get up into 800, the 800 region. And anything darker than that, you're going to want at least 1,000, depending on what kind of lights there are going. But for the most part, you're going to want that pretty high, because it is going to be really dark in there. So now that we understand the basic idea, we'll look at some real examples that I myself have learned from. So this is a photo shot from youth group of one of my students. It's obviously a little dark. There's some obvious lighting issues going on there. So again, it is very dark. You can't really see her face. You don't really know what's going on there. There's something she's holding in your hand. It is a donut hole, but it's really hard to tell just with what's going on because it is so dark in there. So this is just another example of why ISO is important. If I would have gone back, would have cranked the ISO up and maybe gotten a different angle where there wasn't some weird lighting, things like that, all would have helped. Now we're going to look at a good example. So here's a photo that I took in Minneapolis. It's very well lit. it's a lot better than the first one. Yeah, you can see the subject's face, you can see the background, you can see the details. Nothing is too dark, too light. There's nothing distracting or anything like that. Now that we feel comfortable with ISO, we are going to step into the next setting, which is the f-stop. F-stop is super important, and it basically determines how much movement will be captured in a picture. And this just means a lot because if you don't do it well, your pictures will be blurry and out of focus. So jumping into our 4 examples, right off the bat, the first one, we have just a person standing there. Second one, we have 2 people going on a walk, so there's a little bit more movement there. The third frame here, we have someone doing some type of movement, not necessarily running, but jumping or something like that. And then the final one, we have someone playing sports, which is the most movement. I'm just gonna go ahead and write each of the descriptions on top so we can remember what they say. Again, sitting, walking, movement, and sports. So for the first one, someone's sitting, there's not a lot of movement there. You can do an f-stop of 125. Second one, someone's walking, there's a little bit more movement. You don't want it to be blurry, so you can knock it up to 200 or more depending on how fast they're walking. If there's more movement, you want to get up to 400, and then 1,000 plus of sports. You want to go as high as you can when it comes to sports. Now we're finally going to cover the last of the 3 basic settings, and the one we're going to look at is aperture. Aperture deals with how much is in focus, and you'll see it on your camera on settings like the ones listed here below. Like I said before, aperture deals with how much you have in focus and how much of the photo will be in focus. The lower the aperture, a pretty standard low aperture is 1.8, means that only one small thing will be in focus and the rest will be blurry, which can make things look really, really cool. Now that we've gone over the facts, we're going to look at some examples. Here's the first photo we have from a wedding with the couple's rings. And you know, this is a really good example and it's a good photo when we talk about aperture and what's in focus. As you can see, the rings here are clearly in focus and the shoes are a little bit out of focus or a little bit blurred. This really emphasizes the rings. Now we have a very bad example here. This is a photo that had potential and it could have been a really great selfie. But because of the aperture being too low, only this girl in the front is in focus and everyone else is out of focus, which kind of ruins the picture. If there was a higher aperture, then everyone could have been in focus and it could have been a really great photo. Now that we have covered the basics of camera settings and exposure and things like that, there's one final topic, and that is white balance. White balance is super duper important, and especially in video. Basically, white balance is making sure that your photos are the right color. It might sound weird, but white balance is basically about making sure that you don't have any excess colors, such as blue or yellow. Depending on the lighting, even sometimes when we take a photo or take a video, it can just naturally turn yellow or blue. We don't adjust the settings correctly, but that's where white balance comes in. You can adjust the white balance by going into the camera settings, and in the menu there should be a setting that says adjust white balance, and it'll have you snap a picture so you can see what the white balance is in the room that you're in or the setting that you're in, and then it will adjust it for when you take the pictures. Now that we know how, we're going to look at a few examples as well. So right here we have a picture that is clearly very yellow and a photo that is not as yellow. And you see the picture on the left that's yellow and it's just not good. It's not, you don't want that, but that picture, it's not yellow as good. So now that you know about exposure and white balance, you are pro, you are ready to go. There's only one thing I want to leave you guys, and that is remember to shoot your videos so that everything looks natural. If you're struggling with the lighting or the exposure or the white balance or things like that, just think back to what looks natural, what is going to reflect the event in the way that it really looked.